what would I wear if I was going beach clubbing or to the gym? If you're wearing something that you would wear beach clubbing or the gym, you've gone wrong. You wouldn't wear trainers, you can't wear flip-flops, you can't, you just can't wear those things.
They can start developing that at sort of 14, 15, go and get a paper round. But
can you do that still?
Yeah,
that's still a thing.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. So you should.
The famous paper round.
Yeah.
Rather than quantity, so you could do 2 or 3 really good detailed examples better than 100 examples of where I've spoken to a member of the public in True Zone. I think they really, really do stand out. And also talking about the apprenticeship and the course as well, and why you want to do that course and not a different course.
Comment that you made, don't be a lurker in the background, don't set up your profile and then just leave it, kind of interact, comment on things, post things. If you've got an interest or you've done a bit of work or you've gone out and done something extra that might be of interest, post it on there. Because
hi, and welcome to today's episode of Legally Attuned. This is an Attwells Solicitors podcast, and today I am joined by Chris and Charlotte. Chris is from the Suffolk 1, is that how you say it, college? Or is it a sixth form?
Sixth form.
Sixth form.
Yep.
And Charlotte, who heads up our training and development here at Attwells. Hi, you guys okay?
Hello. Yeah, good, thank you.
It's a bit nerve-wracking, isn't it, the first podcast episode. So we're going to talk today about youth employment and how, if you're a young person, you can get into what we do here, apprentices, but also other aspects of the law and also just your career in general. So this is a good one for even if you are not intentionally seeking a job in the legal profession, but if you're just seeking employment in general, you may pick up some tips and some bits you can improve on your CV and different things here. So we're gonna kick off with a few questions just regarding Chris. So what is your role? What do you do?
So my role is I'm the group head of school for business, travel and tourism. So I work across at Suffolk 1, as you mentioned, but also in Bury St Edmunds. We've got West Suffolk College, Abbeygate, and the University Professional Development Centre. So my role is to ensure that the quality of education is good across the group, and also to ensure that we're working with businesses, we're improving students' prospects when they leave study with us.
Okay, yeah, that's quite important because youth unemployment is quite high at the moment. So how have you found that? Is that challenging for you, your job? Is that a different aspect to it?
Yeah, it's been a real challenge. We've kind of bounced back a little bit from COVID, which had a big hit on students, but the last year, the students that have just left us in the summer, I've seen a massive increase in students that haven't got anything to go on to. So they haven't secured employment, haven't secured training or anything like that. So it's been a real big effort to get those students to have something to go on to, some sort of training or work or what have you. But yeah, it's been a big leap in the last year.
Yeah, I've seen that and sort of real life experiences as well, and seeing that. How does and maybe this is one for you as well, Charlotte, because we obviously do apprenticeships here. How has the government apprenticeship scheme helped things, or has it helped things? I suppose it's a bit of a loaded question.
It has. It's. I think it's changed where students see themselves going. So when I first started at Suffolk 1, 9 years ago now, the majority of our students would go on to university, and that would be their destination to go on to. There's been a big shift since the government changed or put more emphasis on the apprenticeships, and now it's just tipped over. So more students go into either apprenticeships or work than they do go on to university. So it's seen a big change. There's the education reform that's going through at the moment. So that's going to have an even bigger impact. That's apprenticeships, that's T levels, that's V levels. So that's going to have a massive impact over the next few years as well. And we'll see a shift even further across into apprenticeships, I think.
Okay, there were some words there that you said that I didn't understand. So what is this reform? Can you explain that a bit more? Yeah,
so the education reform is going through at the moment. So what we've got traditionally is A-levels and BTECs. So BTECs are vocational, your A-level are your more traditional studies. So going forward, it's going to be at sixth form level, at 16 to 19. There's going to be a lot more emphasis on T-levels, which have been there for a few years, a few teething problems and what have you, but much more push on T-levels as they scrap BTECs, so they're going to the wayside, and they're going to be a lot of work experience involved with that, a lot of hands-on skills, a lot of getting out into businesses for the students. And then there's going to be the V levels, which are designed to study alongside A levels or study sort of 3 or 4 subjects alongside each other. And the V levels are again going to be vocational subjects, but you'll be able to study lots of different ones rather than the T levels, which are specialising in one area.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, because I think there is definitely a gap between education and the practical side of things. I found that doing my I don't know if you found this when studying, when you'd done your law degree and different things, but when I was doing my masters for marketing, even at that level, the education experience and what you actually do in work are very, very different. Have you found that as well in what we offer? Because obviously we offer apprenticeships for legal training, so we have the property apprenticeship for conveyancing, but also a solicitor apprenticeship. Have you noticed that the actual format now is more in line with businesses as opposed to when people have degrees?
It's sort of a mixture of both. So to go back to initial questions about apprenticeships, absolutely love apprenticeships. I think the thing to say is it's now gone other times where apprenticeships are just for tradesmen or that type of industry. I don't think there is a job that doesn't have an apprenticeship route into it nowadays. You can become an apprentice teacher, doctor, obviously lawyer, which is what we're doing, as well as plumber, electrician. You know, there's just so many different options for apprenticeships. So it's no longer, I want to do this job, so I have to go to university. I think what it has done is it's meant that more and more people from different locations don't have to move to go to university if they don't want to, which has opened up opportunities for a lot of people that maybe wouldn't have them. In regards to your question about practical and academic, it is still very split, what is for law anyway, I would say. When they're doing the apprenticeship, the academic side of the apprenticeship is exactly the same as the academic side going to university, so make that clear. It's still a law degree, it's still very academic and isn't very practical, but what it does do is it teaches you the technical knowledge skills to be a lawyer. It's not any more practical than any other way of learning, it's the same. But alongside that, you are working in a law firm and learning those practical skills at the same time, so it's almost doing the 2 separate things together. And that's the same in most apprenticeships. The qualification side is still very academic, it's not any different, but because you're actually working in some job at the same time, you can learn how to apply it as well.
I think that's so important. I really do, because one of the obstacles of youth unemployment is that people are looking for experience, but unless you get a job, you're not going to get experience. So having these apprenticeships enables the younger people to get this experience. It's almost like chicken and egg. What comes first, isn't it? In no scenarios. And I'm hoping that the apprenticeships have sort of bridged that kind of gap or that narrative somewhat.
Yeah, and I think the T levels, pushing with that will do that further, because that is a combination of the academic side of things and hands-on experience. So hopefully when the students then go on to the higher apprenticeships, the degree apprenticeships, they will have some of that experience already in place. So hopefully that will help bridge that gap a little bit.
Okay, I think that's really important for people who are watching this to know. At Suffolk One, what else do you do with students? How do you work with them? What's your day-to-day working with them? What's that like?
We obviously have our bread and butter, which is the teaching. So we're teaching the subjects around business, around travel and tourism, and that's vast and varied that they look at. But outside of that, we have a student mentor program that we're just kind of bringing in, we're developing at the moment. So the idea with that is that businesses will work with us, people who own their own businesses will work for larger organisations, what have you, will work with the students long term. So the students tend to be with us 2, 3, 4 years, and the mentor program they'll meet those students, they'll work with them. It's almost like the longest job interview in the world, if you like. So we offer things like networking events, so business breakfast, lunches, and stuff like that. We go out to businesses and they have networking events. We take the students along to that, offering work experience. As you said, that having that experience is vital. So part of that mentoring program is to offer the students some sort of work experience, whether that's kind of long term across those 2, 3, 4 years, or whether it's a block placement as well. And then the mentors will come in and help them with their coursework, their academic work, and help kind of put some life to it, I suppose, because you can learn something from a textbook or from the teacher, but actually putting real life scenarios to that is really important. So having that kind of as part of their program, I think, is really important, because it gives them the skills that they need to go into work. It's not just about having that qualification on a bit of paper. It's about having those skills, being able to communicate, being able to speak to people who aren't their peers, who they might not have met before. So that's what the mentoring scheme is designed to do, really.
I think I'm going to touch on your role in a second, but I just wanted to sort of talk about something first. I think that's very important. You talked about meeting peers and meeting people, because one of the things that I've found, and this may be just a me experience, I'm not sure, I'm sort of speaking for Charlotte here, but the younger people I find are a bit more nervous about using the phone or speaking to people directly. They're great when it comes to texting, they're great when it comes to emails, but there's certain sort of traits that you pick up on. Text speak and emails is something that I've picked up on, and the lack of capitalisation or the correct grammar, because the phone does it for you, but also these verbal skills and having these sort of nervous impositions about meeting people and sort of the anxiety around that. So it's good that you're sort of doing something to bridge that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I do it myself. I hate phoning people now, because I'm just so used to messaging and what have you. So, and I come up in a world where we didn't have WhatsApp, we didn't have these messaging services, but still, I don't like doing it. But you have to do it, and I think it's part of it is actually saying to our students is it's fine to be nervous. We all are, and actually sharing my story that I hate doing it kind of helps them a little bit as well. It's quite normal.
It really is normal.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is quite valuable for youngsters, if they're able, is to actually work with the public. We see a lot of CVs, don't we, where people have worked in sort of retail and things, and it's so good because you have that experience of hands-on people skills. It sounds like an old-fashioned value, but it's so important. I always attribute the fact that I'm introverted but able to do this with being raised in a hairdressing environment, because I was thrown into that at such a young age that I had to just get on with it. So it comes in useful. So in your role, Charlotte particularly, and you talk about, like, we talked about here about the apprenticeships and stuff and what Chris does. How do you then, from sort of the business perspective, bridge that gap, and how do you interact with colleges and universities alike?
Well, we try and join like career fairs at schools and colleges, go to speak to the students, talk about what we do workshops, like problem solving workshops. We have an open day here, if anyone wants to register, coming up in the October half term, which is really exciting, where they can come and see the firm for themselves. For those that maybe don't have the option to do it at school and college, we also have a TikTok where we try and put some videos up and speak to them directly. So we try all sorts of avenues to try and talk to students about what it's like to work here, and get them involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a great shout. Our TikTok is quite good for that. It's fun as well. It's not too boring for a law firm. But also, like you said, conveying what we do here is important. It has sort of a more serious message to it. So what does your day-to-day look like, Charlotte, as your sort of role and how you support the younger people?
There is not a day-to-day role. Well, as head of training and development, I guess it starts from day one with inductions and making sure people understand what the role's going to be, but progresses throughout their career right up to leadership and management skills in the future. making sure that we're compliant as a law firm and they have the training required, but also that they have their own personal development and career plans moving forward. There's a few key stages for early careers, which is obviously what we're focusing on today. There's starting a whole new job, which is quite scary for quite a few of them, different environments. That's the induction. And then the next key stage is starting the university course, or whatever course it is that they're on. Again, it's different to when you're at school. It's not quite the same. So again, that's supporting them through that. Then progressing through the whole apprenticeship. Nearer the end, there's another big milestone where they're sort of trying to work out what their career is going to look like after qualification, and that's unique and personal to everyone. So they require quite a bit of support and personal development planning for that as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be quite unique because everyone's got different goals. Not everyone, and quite rightly so, don't want to be a partner. I'm going to go back. I always come back when I do these to like personal experiences, but my mum always had this really good saying, because I was never, I know I've talked about my masters, but actually I flunked high school, literally left with nothing. So I had to redo my GCSEs at community college and all that. I wasn't a good student. I won't dwell too much into that on this episode to give people the wrong impression. But so one of the things she used to say to me was like, even the brain surgeon will need someone to clean the room. And it's that kind of eco kind of system, how we all fit in. So even if you don't, not everyone wants to seek the highs of a partner in our case, or I don't know, management outside of here. Some people just are happy to do a kind of everyday kind of job, but it's how you fit in with everyone else. It's that you're still a part of the community and your work's still valued and has meaning. So I think that's always been true, and it's sort of understanding that, because I think sometimes, especially on social media, and youngsters are continuously being bombarded with imagery, you don't have to be the sort of top dog, you don't have to reach for those. I think when you're quite young, having those lofty ambitions, it can be quite intimidating. And I think just maybe like find those little steps towards that. So what you do, I think, would be quite useful for that, to show people how you can actually, if they want to get to the level of Nick, but also if they want to get to the level of maybe like me or Emma Matthews or whoever in the firm too. So we're going to kind of move on for a little bit, people who maybe are watching this who are not interested in law, and kind of look at maybe some practical tips and advice. I guess both of you can answer this, but what do you think employees look for? So maybe Chris first, if you want to answer that.
I mean, you'll be able to tell more than me, but I think employers are looking for certain qualifications, certain jobs, you're going to need those qualifications, absolutely. But actually, when you meet that student for the first time, what impression are you giving? Are you making eye contact? Are you shaking hands? Have you got those kind of communication skills that are really important to set that first impression? So I think getting across to the students that that's vitally important, that you only get, what's the old saying, that you only get one chance at first impressions. And developing those skills is really important. I think that employers are going to look for students that have, they've gone through and done their qualification, so have hundreds of thousands of other people, but what else have you done? What opportunities have you taken advantage of? What experience have you got? We've spoken about that as well, and it doesn't necessarily have to be experience in that area, but you've gone out, and you said about kind of working in retail, and the skills that develops and what that shows to an employer. I think those things are really important for students to develop, and they can do that at pretty much any age. They can start developing that at sort of 14, 15, go and get a paper round. But
can you do that still?
Yeah,
that's still a thing.
Yeah,
still
you
a
can.
thing.
Yeah. And so you should.
The famous paper round.
Yeah.
What about you, Charlotte? What do you think?
Oh, I agree with Chris. Communication is a key skill in most, if not all, jobs, I feel. Even if it's not like a customer or client-facing communication, you have to be able to communicate with your colleagues, your managers. It is an important skill. I think, personally, I think what we're really looking for is someone who is self-aware and self-reflected on what it is they want to do. And it doesn't have to be a thought-out, detailed 10-year plan, but it has to be, why have you sat down at your computer, applied for this job today? What has made you do it? And I think if people can explain that in a thoughtful way, a way that shows that they've done research and that they've looked into it, and that they're genuinely interested in it, and they've reflected on how the skills themselves have match that, and if some of them don't match, why they don't match, and how they're going to change that. I think that's really what you're looking for in an early careers job. Most apprenticeships are a lot of commitment for the student and for the employer in regards to time. The government do fund them, but they don't fund everyone supervising them, or the training or the learning, so it's a financial and a time aspect. So we wouldn't want someone that sort of applied on a whim. We want someone that's applied personally for the apprenticeship that they've applied for, and the firm or the company that they've applied for. So I think you can tell this by a really good covering letter. I think you can tell it by the way they answer questions in interviews, whether they've done the research and whether they've specifically applied. I'd say quality over quantity wins out every time. If you've applied for 100 apprenticeship programmes, you've probably done it wrong. It's not a numbers game, because they'll just go in the bin. If you've applied for 5 really good ones, I'm not going to say you're definitely going to get it, but you've got more of a chance because they're going to stand out because you've put more effort and time into those 5.
So what sort of things in a CV would catch your eye, or in a covering letter?
For good or bad?
Both.
Okay. Well, for good, references to something that is personal to our firm, or the company you're applying for, obviously, but keeping it generic. So all companies have websites where they list what they're mainly proud of, what sort of culture they are, what sort of things they're proud of. So if you can tie it into that and why you want to apply for that company, then that really does stand out, along with mentioning the experience that we talked about earlier that you've done, but tying it to a skill, almost spelling it out. For those of you that have done exams, you're probably used to this, where you have to actually spell out what you actually mean, and don't just half-ass it. So for example, you could say, I worked in Shoe Zone, which I did do, by the way, as a youngster, and this helped with my customer service skills. Well, that's an okay answer, but it's sort of halfway there, isn't it? Make it better. You could talk about an example. You say, I can deal with clients that might be having a stressful day, because when I worked at Shoe Zone as a supervisor, a client was unhappy because their shoe fell apart, and I managed to deal with it. Again, it's about quality rather than quantity. So you could do 2 or 3 really good detailed examples, better than 100 examples of where I've spoken to a member of the public in Shoe Zone. I think they really, really do stand out. And also talking about the apprenticeship and the course as well, and why you want to do that course and not a different course. Red flags, there are a load, but at the top of my head, if you're going to apply to lots and lots of places using the same covering letter, it is obvious, especially if you forget to remove the name of the company. We have had a huge number of covering letters that were designed for another law firm with another name on them. It's about being personal and changing it. You can use a standard structure to a covering letter, but it's going to be different depending on the firm that you apply for and what they value. Other red flags, AI is a dangerous tool. It's useful, but also dangerous. I think it helps structure covering letters. It helps with grammar and spelling. It helps so much to make a covering letter better. So I'm not saying don't use it, but you have to give AI the personal information about yourself and about the company that you want to include, and you want to make it personal to you and allow it to help you structure something that you've already written. If you just ask AI to create a covering letter, it's going to become generic. It's not going to sound like you. Even if you get through the human that's reading it, which most of them don't, when you come to interview, it's going to be different to what you sound like in real life or what you value in real life. You're not even going to be able to remember what you put. So it's going to become obvious. So I think use AI with caution. My grammar and spelling's always been a problem for me. Right as a kid, so I think tools like Grammarly and AI to use for that are really helpful. So I don't want to discourage people from using them, but just use them in a careful way.
Yeah, I do the same because I'm dyslexic, so I use ChatGPT for spelling, but I will often put in, so if anyone's just watching this, I often put in there a prompt which will say, please spell check and grammar check, but do not change my use of language. So that's often like a prompt that I'll use, and if you put that in, it will do what you've just said, and it will just improve those aspects rather than changing your tone of voice, which is what you're sort of alluding to there, because otherwise it will add bits in that you may not have said or have changed the way you've said it, which then makes it seem inauthentic. And when you come to the interview, if you have got through, you then appear to be like a different person. So I think that's quite important. Chris, what about you? Have you got any sort of tips and advice in terms of CV and covering letter writing? Any good or bad things?
No, I think you've kind of covered most of it. It's being authentic, making sure that you are getting you across, that you are doing the research on the company that you're going to, that, as you say, it's kind of unique to that company. You're not just bouting out hundreds of CVs and covering letters that are all identical. It has to be tweaked. I think the difficulty for maybe some young people is remembering what they've done. You said about shoe zone and how you did that. So I think it's always worth, from any age, as soon as you're starting work or you're at college or at school or what have you, is just thinking about those times that have been difficult, where you've had to show a little bit of resilience, or you've had issues that you've had to deal with. Just jot them down, so that you've got those examples, because we all know how difficult it is kind of thinking back. I'll think of all the jobs I've got, and you try and think on the spot, okay, what have I done in the past that I could apply to that question, and it's very difficult to do. So if you can kind of get those little gems as you go along, I think that's really useful.
I also think that's quite useful for interviews as well, to have notes, and I don't know about you, but I had this when I was recently interviewing. People were coming in with notes, and I found that actually quite a positive thing. That was like a green flag for me, because I was they'd taken some time to actually do some research and put some notes down. What type of things can people do in interviews to help them? Because obviously we just talked. I say obviously, people. It's about 10 minutes ago now, but we talked about the youngsters being nervous and about the people skills they may be lacking now because they're used to sort of digital and phones and stuff. So they're very likely to be more nervous than maybe an older person who's sort of been and done it. So what tips would you give people for interviews and how they can combat sort of their anxiety and the nerves that they may be feeling?
First off, I'd say just remember it's normal to be nervous at an interview. I think if someone comes in completely unnervous, that would be a bit unusual. And also, I think nerves imply that you care. So I don't think they're necessarily a bad thing. The issue with nerves, obviously, is that it tends to cause people to be stressed and then not say what they want to say. Like on the way home, you come up with the perfect response, that sort of thing. That's not ideal. So to counter that, I think you're right, some notes can help. I would caution again writing whole scripts though. Just jot down a few, as you say, a few skills that you've done before or things that you want to definitely try and bring up are not a bad idea. But interviews in general are a conversation. We often find people that have potentially over prepared and written scripts come across like they're not great at communicating because they're not listening to the question. They're almost saying the answer to the question they wanted to get rather than the question they got. So it's not ideal. I think a better skill to have is to listen and remember that you don't have to answer straight away. So listen to the question, take a moment, take a breath. I went on a training course recently about authentic and assertive communication. I found quite interesting. A little tip is before you say anything, they made us put one Duplo on top of another Duplo. Yes, they did have Duplo in an adults training session. But the idea was you had to pause and think before you say, and the difference it made, because we recorded ourselves before and after, was crazy. So I think that tip's really good for interviews. Is it's okay to be in silence for a few seconds, you know, take a sip of drink, have a think about it, and then answer. And hopefully you won't be then sort of caught in the headlights situation and actually give an okay answer. But if it does go wrong, or you're like, that's not what I wanted to say, just say, oh, sorry, can I re-answer that question, or can I rephrase that, or can I say that again? No interviewer worth their salt will mark you down for that, because they're trying to get the information from you just like you're trying to give the information. It's a skill on both parties, and you know, they want to get the information to put you in the best light as well. So it's okay if it's going the wrong way at first, just bring it back, just say, oh, can I have a redo, and don't be afraid to, you know, start again, or say whoopsie, I'm gonna try again. Don't leave it until you're driving home to say whoopsie. But I think that's really good. Also, role playing, asking friends or family to help role play. The more you do it, even if it sounds awkward, the less awkward you'll then be in the real day. If you've done it multiple times before, you know, with your mum or your dad or a friend, or a school teacher, or, you know, in a work experience program or wherever, it will become less nerve-wracking for the real one.
You do feel, I mean, I've done this with my daughter, and you do feel like a complete pleb trying to do it. You do. Just going back to what you said about notes taking, just for clarity, I'm just going to show this to one of the cameras. These are the notes that we have for our podcast, and rarely do I stick to them. But they're good for prompts. So I think that's what you were getting at, wasn't it? Like the sort of good prompts, the bullet points. Also, another tip that I learned, because I watch a lot of body language because I'm a geek, is the behaviour panel, shout out to that, is they talk about like curling your toes up in your shoes.
Oh, okay.
Because it that you just remembering to do that, and you doing that action takes you out. They call it sort of like your monkey brain, but basically what it is you sort of go onto autopilot because you're so nervous that your survival system kind of kicks in, you know, flight or fright response. And so you're sort of speaking kind of like a bit gibberish, sometimes like what I do here when I'm really nervous. So just doing that brings you back to the moment and can help your brain get back on board. Probably same as the breath that you were taking and the pause with the Duplo, just that minute of consideration can help your brain come back online. Like, okay, I've got this again. So Chris, have you got any tips for interviews?
Yeah, we do quite a lot of work with our students. So all of our BTEC students at the moment will go out and have interview practice. So they'll go into real businesses, they'll have those real interviews where they have to dress up, they have to do that. So I'd say get that experience if you can. If your college school offers it, then take that as much as you can. Don't beat yourself up if you don't get the first job interview. Kind of reflect from it, what could you have done if you're having that drive home, and you come up with a perfect response. Jot that down. What did you learn from that? But I think there's also a structure to an interview. So if you're asked a question, you give the example. What is the impact of that example, and how can that then apply to the job that you're specifically applying for? So if you kind of think about that structure when you're answering questions, I think you'll come across a lot better.
Can you just say that again, just to emphasise it?
Yeah, so make your example. What is the impact of that example? So you said about your job in the shoe shop and dealing with customers there. What was the impact of that? What was the outcome? How does that then apply to the job that you're going for? And that does a couple of things. Firstly, you're going to answer the question. Secondly, you're going to stop going off and waffling about random stuff and going off on these tangents, which is fine in an interview. It gets to know you. The interviewer gets to know you better. But if you do that, you're going to come across a lot better, I think, and a lot more professional.
That's a good framework. One of the other things you touched upon, and oh God, my daughter's going to kill me for saying this, but I did have to have this conversation with my children, is that you cannot go to an interview wearing jeans and trainers. And you touched upon that, dressing up. You said, like, when you do examples, you dress up. Can you speak about that? Because I think maybe that's sometimes a bit missing.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I think there's a worry sometimes when you go to interview, particularly as a young person, you might not have been to an interview before, of what do I wear, what am I supposed to wear on there, and I think there's an embarrassment that you could overdress. So if you're going to company, businesses have changed now, aren't they? When you're actually in that job, you can be a bit more relaxed than maybe you could a few years ago. So there's a worry that you could overdress. My advice is you can't for an interview. If you're overdressed, you touched on it earlier. Actually, what it proves is you want that job. You're going above and beyond. You're going to stand out from the others with that. So I think that's really important, that you do dress up, that you do look smart for an interview. You might not wear that if you're successful in the job, and when you're actually in the job for the interview, I think it's really important. And yeah, some teachers, I interview all the time for new teachers and people within the organisation, and some of the more younger teachers that come through, and I say, actually, if a teacher comes to an interview and they're not wearing a tie, straight away it's a bad impression for me. And some of the younger ones were like, well, that's really old-fashioned. Like, might well be, but yeah, I'm still going to go with that.
I think so. I mean, what about, I suppose, for you, what do you find in terms of clothing and stuff? Have you had any? I know that I've interviewed people who have come in jeans, so what about you?
Yeah, I think I probably sit somewhere in the middle, where I don't expect all young people to go out and buy a suit for an interview when in the job they're not going to wear a full-blown suit. Yeah. So probably sit somewhere in the middle, but I do agree with you, to play it safe, you can never overdress. You know, if someone does come in a full suit, that's going to look good. That's not going to be a problem. If everyone else in the office isn't wearing a suit, it's still fine. Whereas you can easily underdress, I think, and that stands out. And I think in a professional job, you can't turn up in trainers, well, I call it, what would I wear if I was going beach clubbing or to the gym? If you're wearing something that you would wear beach clubbing or the gym, you've gone wrong. You wouldn't wear trainers, you can't wear flip-flops, you just can't wear those things. And I think if you're ever in doubt, it's always best to go safe and go overboard. If you want to know a little bit more, you can ask. We do get these questions, HR get these questions, what's your dress policy, what do people wear in the office? If you've been to somewhere before, general rule of thumb is wear whatever the smartest person in that office is wearing. And go good. About that level. That's probably a good bet. I
think that another tip is, especially, well, we have it, but I think a lot of firms and businesses do have it. They'll have pictures of their staff on social media, on their websites. Have a look, see what they're wearing, and you can mimic that. So another form of communication is the visual communication, and if you're mirroring back to themselves, they're going to feel more comfortable with you. So I think that's probably some good advice. And also vintage. If you ride vintage, it's great for second hand. I feel like I'm like just advertising now.
And check with your school or college, because we have a closed library that students can tap really into. Good. So if they haven't got a suit, they're just going for one interview, then most schools, colleges now have a version of that, something that students can tap into.
So it's always worth suggest that. I might suggest that.
Okay. So in terms of, we've talked about qualities and stuff, but I kind of want to go back to, we've talked CVs, we've talked interviews, but let's go back to a sort of earlier stage. How would you actually go about finding these jobs? Because, I mean, it must be a minefield out there.
It's hard.
How would you do it? I'll go to you first, Charlotte. How would you do it?
I think, first off, you have to have a real good idea of what sort of jobs you're looking for. You can't easily nowadays, unfortunately, do like a generic search and find what you're looking for. You have to sort of know roughly what you're looking for. If it's in, I want to work in a regional law firm in East Anglia, then you can then go on a few pages. Like I said, it's quality versus quantity, so try and find the top 5 places you want to work and follow their social media, because if you follow their social media, they'll let you know when jobs are open or available on their website. and you'll be able to see them because you're following them. You can go to, job search pages, you can go to job centres, colleges, schools, they advertise these things, career advisors, they advertise these things. But it does really help if you can narrow it down and be as specific as possible as to what you're trying to find. And so that you can individually follow those companies or go and talk to those people that work there. If you're unsure and their social media's not great like ours and doesn't tell them all the time, you can... I said that like ours. I said that's great. You can contact the company and say, when are you likely to open your programmes and get involved that way. So there's lots of ways to find jobs. There's no right or wrong way. But I think the best tip is to try and jot down a few ideal companies or ideal places that you want to work for and go from there.
Yep. Okay. And then sort of go on social media
if they've got them.
Follow, go on their website, check it out. What about you, Chris? What would you say?
I think speak to your careers advisor. There's careers advisors in all schools, colleges now. Speak to them as a first port of call. You can have an interview with them. They'll, particularly if you're not sure what you want to do or where you want to go, they will give you advice on that and help to point you in directions. Lots of businesses contact us directly, so if they are recruiting, we get emails through all the time, just saying that we're opening up our apprenticeship scheme or we're recruiting for this role, might be of interest to your students, and then we'll post those out, whether that's a link on Teams or through the careers advisor, or the careers boards or what have you. Then kind of tap into that, look out for that, and take advantage of that. And speak, if you are in education, speak to your teachers about that. Speak to your careers advisors as first port of call. Would be my thing. But businesses do work with us, particularly if they've got your role in place. That's really useful for education, because you reach out and there's someone that you can you've got that contact to go to. So we're always getting those roles come through. It's the students that take advantage of that read those emails that come through, or tap into their careers advisors. They're the ones that are going to be successful and get those roles.
What do you guys think about LinkedIn? I don't know who wants to say it. You go take it.
Well, first I just want to go back with what Chris said in regards to advertising. Our apprenticeship program's opening in November time, and we will be advertising. You've got a board thing now, electronic board thing. So so you can go through the school or directly. But in regards to LinkedIn, LinkedIn, you have to be over 16 first off to start really on LinkedIn. We're supposed to be. So it's only really for when you're in sixth form or college. I think it's a very useful tool for two things. Firstly, if you follow the companies or the people that already have the jobs that you want to have, it can be really useful because they can give you some insights into the industry. Quite often what people are looking for in interviews is this thing called commercial awareness. No one really knows what it is, but basically it's knowing what's going on in the industry. And if you follow people in LinkedIn who are working in the industry, they will make comments about what's going on, and you will start to become aware of these things. So that's really helpful. Just like how I follow people in education, make me aware of the changes in I knew what you were talking about when you said T-levels, because I found out on LinkedIn. It's just an easy way to find out. I think it's also useful for your own brand, in regards to if you're commenting or sharing posts from companies that you want to work for, they will notice that. When probably not at the time you do it, but when you go for interview, they'll be like, oh, that's the person that commented on our apprenticeship thing last week. It doesn't necessarily, mean that you're miles ahead of anyone else in the interview, but it does sort of ring a bell. Oh, I remember that name. So that can be helpful. If you don't want to go on LinkedIn, you don't have a LinkedIn, it's not the end of the world, but I think there's a lot to be said for what you can learn from others in the profession through LinkedIn. What do you think, Chris?
I completely agree, and we encourage our students to set up a LinkedIn account when they study with us. I think particularly if you're a business student, that's vital, because it is a tool that a lot of businesses will use. But I think comment that you made, don't be a lurker in the background, don't set up your profile and then just leave it. Kind of interact, comment on things, post things. If you've got an interest, or you've done a bit of work, or you've gone out and done something extra that might be of interest, post it on there, because businesses will look at your LinkedIn profile. If your name comes up and you've been invited to interview, you've been shortlisted, businesses will look and they'll want to see what you've been posting, how you've been interacting, and find out a little bit about you.
We do that here. I guarantee you we have looked at your social media, because that's what you do. I mean, more so for what I was doing when I was hiring, because I was looking for a social media lead. So my natural thing was, I'm going to look at your social media, because if I want a social media lead, I'm going to see what you do with your social media. So I think a lot of employees do that. And so be careful what you've made public.
Absolutely. And remember, LinkedIn is a professional platform.
It is.
It's not Instagram, it's not. It's very different, and consider what you are putting on there. Definitely. I kind of think of LinkedIn as the one that you'd be proud to show your parents and your grandparents, and if that's not the case, you've posted slightly wrong. Delete it. Is there any other tips and advice you'd like to share before we conclude?
Oh, that's a big question. No, I'd just say if you're interested in our apprenticeship programme or working here, to keep an eye out for our work experience programme, which is opening in September. Keep an eye for the open day, which is in October half term, and our apprenticeship programme normally opens October, November time as well. So it's all happening.
Good plugs.
In the next quarter. So keep an eye on our social media for that. And we hope to see you there, I guess.
Any sort of last comments, Chris?
I think one last tip is just take advantage of any opportunity. So you can never have too many experiences. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know where it's going to lead to. The successful students, the ones that are going to go on and get their dream careers, are the ones that have taken every opportunity that is thrown at them. And that would be my biggest tip, I think, for any student.
Definitely. Well, I hope you have found this episode useful. I enjoyed it, actually. I've learned quite a lot that I'm going to impart on my family anyway when I get home, much to their joy. If you could, please like this podcast and these videos. We're going to put them out as shorts as well, so you can give a like on those too. Remember to follow, subscribe, do all the great stuff. I believe there's now a hype button that you can press too, so that would be fantastic. Until next time, see you. Bye.